There we go. So hopefully you can see the slides, and DSU 2025 Open Forum Strategic Planning and the Master Academic Plan. Again, thank you for being here. We very much appreciate your attendance and knowing that this is a little bit unusual and unorthodox. Here we go. First of all, we have a committee, and I hope most of them are in attendance at the meeting today. You can see the list there: Kim, Nathan, Amy, Jeff, Dale, Tom, Kelly, Mark, Crystal, Jack, and Lindsay. We have faculty, staff, and students represented on the committee. As you know, effective strategic planning is a difficult and challenging topic, and this group of people has worked very hard to get it done. And I really want to express my thanks to them, and I hope you can do the same when you have a chance. Some FAQs about DSU 2025. Given our circumstances, I just wanted to put some questions into this format. Will the DSU 2025 planning process continue? Yes. There may be some delays and alterations, but we're still pushing for a draft document by the end of spring semester. That means at the committee, we've got to get our act together a bit, and we have to consult with the president, and we have to consult with the implementation council and all of that before, but that's still the goal. We'll see how realistic it is given some things have already changed because of the pandemic. Will planning committee meetings continue? Yes, as scheduled. We'll do those on Zoom for now. We're avoiding getting together in the same room for now. When will we have a draft of our DSU 2025 plan? I think I'm repeating myself. The COVID-19 pandemic and resultant procedures and changes have impacted our schedule, like I said, by the end of spring semester. One thing I wanted to talk about was the Big Ideas Retreat, and I'll take that up on the next slide. And then lastly, what about the assessment of the goals and initiatives of the DSU 2025 strategic plan? We will create an assessment and analysis and a tracking mechanism for the strategic plan. And we'll do that by linking DSU 2025 to what Jeanette McGreevy, our chief assessment person, is calling the Trojan Assessment Profile. We're working on that as we speak. We'll take the main goals and the planning initiatives that are created, and we will create a tracking mechanism. Hopefully assign a champion to each of the goals and be able to measure their progress. Obviously, one of the things that we'd like to be able to do is to assure our accreditors, particularly HLC, the Higher Learning Commission, of a couple things. We want to assure them that, number one, we are very much focused on student learning and student success. We want to make sure that we assure them that we have a direction in mind in order to accomplish those goals. And we need to assure them that we are assessing the elements of our strategic plan. They do expect that, and we'll need to make sure that that happens that way. If you'll recall, I had sent out a call a couple of months ago for what we were calling the Big Idea Retreat. Some of you perhaps haven't heard of that, but we were working on developing big ideas where we allow ourselves to look outside those nasty self-referencing communities that we all engage in. We are all, after all, very interested in our own opinions, but actively engage the key contextual shifts that are happening around us. Are very, very important to be a sustaining and sustainable institution, university and enterprise. We have to understand the contextual shifts. It's interesting, the COVID-19 isn't necessarily a contextual shift. It's sort of an injection of, pardon the pun, an injection of reality and how an example of how things can get disrupted very quickly. But key contextual shifts, the digital environment, artificial intelligence, all of those things that will be coming to bear in terms of us presenting our educational product to our students. So we wanted to think about big ideas as a way to Anticipate. We think big ideas can teach us about context shifting, and by engaging big ideas at the front end of the planning process, can serve as the compass points during the planning process and then make a big difference in the planning outcomes. At least that was the theory. Definitionally, big ideas are transformational, they are aspirational, they build upon the university's strengths and can come from any corner of the campus. We wanted participation from everybody who had a big idea. They are future focused, forward thinking. They have the potential to positively impact Dakota State University as it actively engages its future. And of course, our strategic plan is a part of that engagement. Big ideas are not the same old. They are not what has always been. Change, relationships, and number systems certainly encompass an enormous amount of knowledge and understanding, but these concepts don't contain much insight or direction beyond their definition. So that was what our plan was to engage these ideas, have people bring them in, present them, and then have a voting process of some sort in our retreat where we would narrow down the list and be able to have 2, 3, or 4 of these big ideas as part of our strategic plan or as part of the master academic plan. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. We haven't quite figured out how to do the retreat in this sort of format because it looks like we're going to be unable to get together here for a while yet. So I'll have to get back to you on the big idea retreat. It's definitely postponed for now. It was supposed to happen tomorrow, but unfortunately, it will not. So thank you for that. I wanted to explain what was happening there with the big idea retreat. It has been postponed. We will have a placeholder in the structure. You'll see the structure here in just a minute, and I've inserted a placeholder so that should we have the opportunity to engage these big ideas, we'll have a place in the plan where we can put them and insert them. I see I get a spelling error here. What I was meaning to suggest was that this time would give us a chance to think more about what an appropriate big idea might be. And I encourage you to do that because eventually we're going to come back to you and we're going to say, okay, Tyler, what's your big idea? What does it do for student learning? What does it do for investment in all the things that we're doing? So we hope to have a chance to engage that later. Now, what I wanted to share with you was the proposed structure of DSU 2025, getting down to the nuts and bolts. I've got it set up into 2 columns, a left column and a right column. I'll refer to them that way. In the left column, we start with strategic priorities, mission, and core values. And you'll see that there's a pretty strong focus on the vision statement. We have discussed mission, of course, and mission statements are important and useful. We have also discussed shared fundamental values. We think shared fundamental values provide a basis for moving forward. But the real emphasis and the real organizing element is the vision statement, because the vision statement talks about what we intend to do. It's an aspirational statement of where we want the university to be in the future. Future here isn't defined as 10 years or 15 years or 20 years out. It's really defined as 3 to 5. It's really interesting to think about the rapid rate of change with implementation of digital technologies and all the rest, and science moving forward at an incredibly fast clip, and then have this massive interruption on a global scale. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But our vision really focuses on 5 pillars. These 5 pillars will provide the organizational structure as happens in most strategic plans. The first one, and most of us think perhaps the most important one, although it's very difficult to weight these, is student success. A priority goal for us, and some people might say the only reason we're in existence is to make sure our students succeed. We want to make sure that our definitions of student success go beyond some of the statistical measures of student success, like completion rate, retention rate, those kinds of things. And while we certainly don't ignore those things, student success means other things. It means more than whether they get a job or not. It has a lot to do with adaptation to the world that they're going into and how successful we have assisted them in becoming as they fit into whatever life plan that they create for themselves. The second pillar is engagement, and engagement refers to culture, it refers to communication, it refers to how we interact, it refers to process and structure, culture, for sure. I think this is important, and our committee thinks this is important, and we've got it highlighted prominently. A third pillar is one that is evidenced by the Beacom Institute of Technology on the east side of campus and the Mad Labs building on the west side of campus. Research and the accompanying transitions that happen when you move in that sort of direction suggests that we need to examine, so what does this mean? What does an enhanced or increased emphasis on research mean in terms of faculty, faculty assignment, faculty expectations? What does it mean in terms of promotion, tenure, and evaluation? What does it mean in terms of pursuit of grants and extramural funding? What does it mean in terms of activity on campus? And certainly, what does it mean in terms of partnerships? I'm talking about community partnerships. I'm talking about partnerships with industry, and certainly partnerships with government agencies. So research becomes a priority goal, and obviously there are going to be planning initiatives beneath that particular pillar. Athletics is an important element of our university. A good deal of the student growth in the last couple of years can be attributed to some structural changes in athletics involving university squads and those sorts of things. There are several challenges in athletics. Certainly one is facilities, and we have some community interest in facilities and perhaps improving them. There is also a real important link to academics and supportive majors for athletes and other academic programs that reflect the sort of tendencies that having competitive athletic program on campus produce. So we're excited about that one. And then the element that we seek to have permeate all of these. And it's a priority goal in and of itself, but it's also part of the processes within each pillar is, of course, an emphasis on quality. When we were an AQUIP school, using the Higher Learning Commission classification, we talk a lot about continuous quality improvement, and we have a structural element on campus dealing with quality. That will continue. We want to make sure that an emphasis on quality and improvement and kind of this momentum, this positive momentum about getting better and better and better isn't forgotten. So quality is one of those pillars. The final element on the left column there under proposed structure of DSU 2025 is of course linking our goals and our initiatives to specific plans for assessment. And as I mentioned a bit earlier, that is the Trojan assessment profile that Jeanette is working on and defining, and then one of the pieces of work that the Implementation Council will need to engage is to integrate the directional statements and the goal statements that we produce with an assessment paradigm of some sort, and that will happen. If I move over now to the right column, We do have a little 2x2 table highlighting our conversations about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. All institutions work through this tried and true measure of positioning relative to our colleagues in the domain. There are always things that we're really strong at and things that we need to improve. And as far as I'm concerned, there are always opportunities, and then there are threats. One of the things we've talked a lot about in committee is the importance of developing a very fine-tuned capacity to recruit talent. I'm talking faculty talent, I'm talking student talent, I'm talking staff talent. We need the talent that's a part of sustainability, that's a part of an institution moving forward successfully. We have a section on stakeholder opinions. I hope most of you participated in our stakeholder survey. We have around 600 respondents in that database. I've started to share some of the opinions that have come across. We have faculty, staff, students, alumni, Madison folks, Sioux Falls folks, many different groups of constituents. We did hold a Madison stakeholder focus group here on campus a month or so ago. And we had plans for the beginning of April to hold a Sioux Falls stakeholder group. And I'm not, frankly, sure that that's going to happen. I really doubt that we're going to be able to put together a group in the very near future, but we still want to talk to our Sioux Falls friends and get some idea of what they're thinking about. Next is that placeholder that I said we leave in there, referring to the big idea retreat, and hopefully we'll be able to substantively fill that element at a later point. Now, I want to call your attention to the next element, which is the Master Academic Plan 2. This is the section of the strategic plan that specifically addresses academic priorities. And I, of course, call this to the attention of the deans and the faculty. Where, we need to express from, and I truly mean this, from every college, statements of priorities around academic mission, academic program. Obviously, technology, STEM, and the evolution of the university are interrelated, but we are a university. We are not anything other than that. So we're interested in learning about your aspirational ideas concerning emerging and potential academic programs and academic initiatives that you may have. Please be working on those and get those to us as soon as you can. Now, the next section is the part about the initiatives. Under each of the priority goals that we just talked about, we'll be developing and have started to develop specific initiatives, specific planning initiatives. And as the committee has found out, this is where the real hard work is. We have developed a few already, but the debate is intense. Conversations are pointed, and we seek to develop specific initiatives for each, like under student success. What'll be 3 or 4 specific planning initiatives that we intend to carry out in the next 3 to 5 years, that sort of thing. Lastly, and of course, this refers to the Trojan assessment profile as well, but we will have in the structure of DSU 2025 action plans for measurement, defining the role of the implementation council, defining the role of the cabinet, defining the role of all of us in the oversight and updating of all of our initiatives that are presented. This is an ongoing process. This isn't something that ends, and it'll be a primary function of the implementation council over the next 2 or 3 years. What I've tried to do is in these 2 columns is provide the draft of our proposed structure for DSU 2025. We have a report. We're not able to have committee members chime in with their individual comments, but hopefully you have some questions that we can get to. I need to fix my pointer here. Oops.
I think if you can just uncheck laser. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I did. Thanks, Tyler. Tyler's there to help me when I mess up. So I stopped the screen sharing, and I know Megan is prepared to field some questions if we have any. I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts. Obviously, DSU 2025 is a work in progress. Your committee, the 8 or 9 of us, we're working hard to try and meet the deadline and provide a coherent document. I really would like some help with the academic master plan, get your ideas from across campus, and so we can incorporate some of those things into our planning and into our thinking. So I really appreciate your attendance this afternoon. Yeah, it's turned afternoon already. If you have questions, now would be the time.
At this time, it looks like we do not have any questions. So if anybody that is on right now has questions, please use the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. We'll give you a couple minutes to ask any questions. And if there's no questions at that point, I think we can end.
Yep. And let me reinforce the idea that you can always send things to me or any of the members of the committee. I need to, maybe I can get a list of the participants and I can send you these slides so that you have the committee members that you can talk to as needed. We'll wait just a minute, and really appreciate your attendance this afternoon. Let me end with the same comment I started with. This is really the time to stay safe and healthy, and we'll get through this thing very, very soon.
Okay, we do have a few questions now. I'll start at the top. The first one we have is from Justin Blessinger. His question is, faculty are surely concerned about how PNT will be affected with the end of collective bargaining.
Well, now that's a good question, and I don't have an answer for you. Dr. Moran is taking up that topic with the deans. I think we have a meeting on Friday. I agree, Justin, there will be implications for process. I have no idea how that's going to go, and we're going to have to wait for some answers. We'll probably take that up as a group of deans on Friday during that meeting, but you're right. Go ahead, Megan.
Okay, the next question we have is from Mary Francis. Her question is, on the slide, you had a comment on the CQI committee. What is the future of that committee?
I think very strong. I'd recommend we keep it. As I explained, the idea is to have quality initiatives infuse across the 5 pillars. So having a CQI committee is quite relevant. You know, I don't know how that committee wants to approach things, but should we continue developing projects that are quality related or quality initiatives? Well, I think we should. We need to keep getting better. So I think the future is quite bright for that committee. That's just my opinion. I don't make that call, but I think we need to keep a pretty sharp focus on quality. Megan?
Okay, our next question comes from Dan Talley. His question is, the general faculty were discussing university-wide initiatives. When how will the general faculty move forward with those discussions?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't, I would look to Dale and Tom and Mary for that because they provide leadership for the general faculty. That's a good question, Dan. I don't have the answer for that.
Okay, next question comes from Jack Walters. He says, Dick, could you mention about infusing equity, diversity, and inclusion across the plan?
Yes, thank you, Jack. The fact that I didn't say much about that is simply an oversight. We've had several conversations about equity, diversity, and climate in the conversations, in the planning conversations. And, you know, we've been using a phrase, I think it originated with the board staff, but we call some of these things cross-cutting skills. And just like quality it needs to infuse our environment, so too does equity, diversity, and those kinds of freeing elements need to be infused across all of our initiatives. And what I'm saying there is we must pay attention to those issues. An inclusive environment is an environment where people can really learn. And being exposed to difference and understanding difference and understanding different perspectives is a vital skill. And we will have portions of the DSU 2025 that will address diversity, equity, and inclusion. As I say, nothing more important than developing a firmly inclusive environment. Thanks, Jack.
Next question comes from Mandy Parpart. As the DSU strategic plan changes, will the composition of the implementation council change?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We'll have to take that up with the provost and President Griffiths. Right now, the composition is pretty diverse, faculty, staff, and students, but there may be some areas of representation that need a little fine tuning, but not for me to decide, but we'll take that up. Thank you, Mandy.
Okay, next question comes from Wendy Romero. Do you think it might be valuable to do an all-campus workshop to do brainstorming with regard to this 2025 plan?
No, I don't really mean no, but one of the reasons that we want to do the big ideas is to allow for that kind of brainstorming. At this point, we think we have a pretty good process. We think we have a comprehensive plan, and we need to get something finished by the end of the semester. So I think we'll continue forward. We do invite ideas. Please send them along, particularly related to academic intentions and perspectives and direction. We desperately need those ideas from you.
Okay, our next question comes from Vaughn Hennon. How will these issues of EDI be implemented in the strategic plan, assessed, and broadcast across campus without the hiring of a dedicated chief diversity officer who will focus on these issues?
Well, Vaughn, structure won't solve our problems, but that's not my call in terms of hiring someone. I believe, and perhaps naively, as you might be indicating, that we can push these ideas quite strongly and enact initiatives that have a lot of teeth in them as a function of the planning. And we'll do that. Now, should structure change? That's fine. But that's not the purpose of our planning committee. We don't make that decision. But we do and will emphasize inclusivity, environmental change, and those sorts of things in the planning initiatives. So I'll have to leave it there, Vaughn.
At this time, it looks like we don't have any more questions. If anybody does, if you could send them in quickly, we will get them taken care of.
Those are excellent. Thank you, everybody. That really helped highlight other things that we needed to talk about. So I do appreciate them very much. Megan, one more?
Yep, we do have one more. This question comes from Renee Spawn. Her question is, the committee thinking about investing in South Dakota's state performance excellence network, Baldridge Education, as a quality initiative?
Well, I didn't get a question there, but thank you for bringing that up, Renee. We are, as a committee, looking at the Baldridge criteria for excellence in higher education. We have taken many of their structural elements. We've taken some of their ideas as well, and we've infused them into our process. There are two ways that we see the Baldridge criteria as part of this DSU 2025 planning session. One is to help guide us and keep a focus on those principles that people use to describe excellent institutions. And in that way, that might help us improve, get better, get stronger, all of that. But the second idea is that down the road, not this year, surely, but down the road, perhaps we be in a position to apply for that excellence award, the Baldridge Award. It's very, very difficult and very, very challenging. The criteria are very specific and very demanding, but it's a classic example of an aspirational goal. It's really good stuff. And so thank you, Renee, for bringing up Baldridge. We are using Baldridge in a couple of different ways. Megan?
Follow-up question from Renee. Are we going to create an initiative to become educated on Baldridge at DSU?
Good idea. I won't say yes, but I think that's a very good idea. We could easily do a process to get up to speed. I'd like to do that. I'd like to lead that and provide you the parameters for what they would expect, and you'll get a very, very good idea of the high expectations built into that award. So yeah, Renee, that's a very good idea. I'll see what I can do.
We have a comment from Jack Walters. An earlier question asked how faculty input will be made to the planning committee. Information from general faculty discussions has been collected and will be forwarded to the planning group.
Thank you, Jack.
Yes, we also have a question from Crystal Pauli. Her question is, thank you to Dr. Hansen for his leadership with this work group. He keeps us on track, asks hard questions, and considers everyone's opinions. We will have a good plan in the end.
I'll send you a check, Crystal. No, seriously, thank you, Crystal, very much. It's really hard work, and as we found out, it's not going to get any easier. But I think with that, we'll call it. I do appreciate your attendance. The questions were great. Thank you very, very much. We have recorded this. It'll be available. I'll also use the recording to get notes off of to make sure, as I've told the committee, I have an excellent memory. It's just short sometimes, and so I'll use the recording to get some notes off of. So thank you very much. And with that, we'll say goodbye for now. Remember, stay safe, stay healthy, and go Trojans. Thank you.